Hey, what's going on? I'm Bill DeWeese, pro voiceover talent and voiceover career coach. Yesterday, we spent some time talking about perhaps the most important thing you need to understand about your voiceover business and career, and that is, what are you making per hour? That's your most important metric. And if you don't have your finger on the pulse of that data, you really don't know anything about your business at all. And so when I talked about how much you're making per hour, what I meant specifically, I want to talk about this to make sure you understand, it's not the time that you've spent on the job recording it. It's the time that's been spent leading up to that. It's everything involved in your business, your office work, your marketing, the auditions that you're doing. That is all time spent working and working toward, hopefully, the work that you're getting. So again, it's not just whatever those minutes or hours were spent on the one job. It's everything that culminated leading up to that job, including auditions. And I'll never forget, one of the biggest eye-openers came to me about 10 years ago. And there was a talent voice actor in Los Angeles who reached out for my help. And if I remember correctly, she was represented by Atlas, and she was good. She was very good, world-class. Great demos, incredible skill set. And the first question I asked her was, so how long has it been since you've worked? And her response blew me away. She said, it's been 2 years. She had been auditioning for 2 years with absolutely no success in landing a job. And as time went on, and I've worked and talked to many, 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 many more voice actors, I heard that story over and over and over again. So there's a lot of effort and time that went into, whatever work she would get periodically, a lot of time spent leading up to that. So what I wanted to do was to lay out some scenarios for you. First of all, let's start with a more traditional scenario, much like this voice actor that I was telling you about, in that you're only really working through agencies. That's what you're doing. So you know that when you get the gig, it may be better than most. It's also the odds of getting that are much lower than many other jobs. So my point being, you're going to spend more time, at least in theory, spending more time on average to get that job. And I think that's something we can probably all agree on. So let me draw out a hypothetical just so you understand how this works. So let's say, for instance, that you've committed 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. So you're spending 10 hours a day auditioning and working. And let's say that over the course of a year, you land one job. Now, again, you can recalculate this. It may be some of you have gone longer with no work. Some of you have done better than this. So again, you can calculate based on how you feel your performance would work. But let's say hypothetically, you've spent 10 hours a week. That's 50. What's that? It comes out to 200. Well, 10 hours a week times 50 weeks. That's 500 hours a week. And let's say the job is a $10,000 job. Okay, so it's a nice ad, and it's a $10,000 payday. Well, over the course of that year, based on the hours spent working, you made $20 per hour for that job, because that's the amount of time that, well, actually, and it could be auditioning, it could be in writing postcards, emails, whatever the case is. The point is, you spent the 500 hours, you produced $10,000. That's $20 per hour. If it's a $20,000 job, obviously your per hourly rate would go up to $40 per hour. If you did half that, $5,000, it would be half that, or what would that be? $10 per hour. So, can I see where I'm going with that? Okay. Let me add a bit of a curve into this, a wrinkle into the formula, because this is what I try to help people do, and that is to build a sustainable income. When you're working strictly through agency work, it's more of a crapshoot. When you win, you can win big, but the odds are stacked against you from the beginning. And so the work is few and far between for most people. But let's say that you're still going to have that marketing channel. You still have agencies. And so, let's say you're still doing you're working 2 hours a week, and you're landing that one, $10,000 job a year, making $20 on average per hour. But let's throw a slight wrinkle in. There are, as you may be aware, there are many production houses out there that specialize in creating really good commercials, radio and TV, for smaller and local markets. And they have their own internal rosters. And I know a lot about this because I worked with a lot of these production companies in building my voiceover career. So let's say that after contacting a number of these companies through their websites, you get listed on their roster. You've got a strong skill set. You've got some great demos, so you get listed. And let's say that you're able to, on average, book one local, smaller market radio commercial a day for $50 a commercial. So you're thinking, well, I mean, I'm holding out for the $10,000 job. Okay, I get it, but just bear with me for just a moment. Let's say you're still working towards that. But let's say that through your efforts here, and let's say you're not spending any more time. It's still within this 2-hour time you've allotted yourself a day. You're now booking yourself one $50 local commercial per day. Well, that's going to come out over the course of a year if you work 5 days a week, 50 weeks out of the year, give yourself off a couple of weeks for vacation and holidays. You're adding an additional $12,500 to your bottom line, meaning you're now making $22,500, which means that your hourly rate has jumped from $20 per hour to $45 per hour. Just by within those 2 hours you're spending a day, now saying, okay, you know what? I'm going to do some local, some smaller dollar jobs. $50 spot, one a day. Okay, with me so far? All right. Now let's say, again, just hypothetically, and by the way, what I'm talking about is not out of the norm at all. It's not outrageous. I used to do a lot more than that on a daily basis when I did a lot of the, local type commercials working through these talent rosters that I'm talking about. So let's say, you've done this for a little while. You've built up a bit of a following through these companies because they're marketing, they're pushing your demos out there to their clients and advertising. So now let's say you book 2 of these jobs a day, 2 of these $50 jobs a day. Well, now your income from these smaller commercials has gone up to $25,000 a year. Plus you're booking the one big $10,000 job per year. So that's taken the annual income up to $35,000. And if my math is right, your hourly rate just jumped to $70 per hour. Not by working more hours, you're still doing the 2 hours per day. But instead of just taking the crapshoot, the long shot for the one big job, you're still doing that. And still, once a year, you're landing that. But now on a daily basis, you're knocking out 2 30-second local commercials, which take you maybe, if you're slow, 10 minutes per commercial. Okay. So, and again, this is the hypothetical, so you can begin to see and understand how you could the power of leveraging these types of clients to be able to build your hourly rate. And it's all about building a sustainable income. The 5-figure jobs, they come and they go. You really can't build your life around hoping that those are going to pan out. They may not. When it rains, it pours. When it doesn't, it is a desert, and it can be a desert for a long time. I remember a few years back coaching a gentleman who had booked a national Centrum vitamin commercial campaign. It was a 6-figure to payday, paid $100,000. And he said, that year was awesome, but it had been years since he booked a job, and he had been auditioning and auditioning. So what I'm throwing out here, these hypotheticals are not so hypothetical. I hear these stories over and over and over again. So I want to encourage you to work smarter, not harder, as cliche as it sounds, but track that hourly rate, because that's where your value's at. That's where you know exactly where you stand. And I've shared with you a thought or two on how you can build that hourly rate, because I really want to see you be successful and reach your goals as a working voiceover talent. And if you need additional help, there's a link below this YouTube video where you can find out more information about my VoiceOver Blueprint program. But I encourage you today to figure out your number, know what your hourly rate is, or at least get an approximation of what that is, and chart out a plan to begin to grow it to meet your goals and your needs. Thanks for checking out the video. I hope you'll like, share, subscribe, and I'll talk again very soon.